Hello YouTube, this is Flights in Asia, and today I'm going to be doing a rundown on who is flying and the airlines, especially within the Asia Pacific. Um, Now, as we all know, the whole situation with the pandemic has caused havoc on the travel plans of airlines travelers, and some travelers do remain stranded still. So during the months of May and June, this is what's going to be happening as we go on with these airlines. And as to recap what has happened so far, we have seen the Chinese aviation sector starting to recover now, as with South Korea, and some of them are adding flights. During this whole ordeal so far, while Japan has made a national emergency in their country, ANA and Japan Airlines has been running flights, but on a limited scale, especially within the domestic market, as with Korean Air and Asiana. Though they have reduced their schedule significantly, as with Singapore Airlines and Silk Air in Singapore. In Southeast Asia, it's a bit more of a complicated situation with the travel bans in place. This has affected the countries of Thailand, Malaysia, the Philippines, and Indonesia, which right now, so far, restrictions have been starting to be easing up. With in Thailand and Malaysia, there have been new guidelines. So some of the budget airlines like AirAsia and uh, Lion Air have begun limited operations in those countries. As for and also in Singapore, still very limited flights. Singapore Airlines has been running. I'll get to Singapore Airlines and Silk Air. Um, in Lion Air, in terms of Indonesia, right now there is a travel ban in place right now. There are exemptions as with the other countries in the travel ban for flights going with a with official business, basically. So if you are a foreign traveler that is stranded in the country and you have a permission to take the one of the international flights out, you are going to be allowed to be flying out, I believe. Then we also have, well, for the most part, again, these travel bans are in place for most travel, so most commercial travel. And in Indonesia, right now, the unlike the Philippines too, right now the Philippines is another situation. But I'll get to the Philippines after Indonesia. Indonesia will have most of the flights um, restricted until June 1. And actually, I will be going over Garuda Indonesia later on in the video because I have some updates on their flight schedules. As for the Philippines, this week there has been a new issued international travel ban because of the situation with accepting foreign OFWs coming in, especially the repatriation flights coming in, and their apparently the terminal is not able, and their facilities right now that they have to do the processing and quarantining these individuals has been overwhelmed. So they have not eased these restrictions. They have implemented these travel ban from international arrivals. So no international arrivals will be going to Manila or any of the Philippine international airports between May 3 to May 9 this week alone. Going back to AirAsia, Malaysia and Thailand have opened up. This has made headlines. I've actually discussed some of this in other videos and live streams in the past. Lion Air again. Thailand is the subsidiary that is operational. Thai Lion Air. As for another interesting country to discuss is Vietnam. They have actually since late April and because they have eased their infection rates, they have started increasing domestic flights. Now there are international flight restrictions as with other countries, but they are on the path to recovery with South Korea and also China as well. So following that same path. So let's get started with some of the airlines that I wanted to discuss in this video. I'm gonna try to keep this. I'm not sure how long this is gonna be. This is already 4 minutes that I've been talking, so I'm gonna go a little bit more. Um, Now, the first airline I will be discussing is Cathay Pacific, and the Hong Kong-based carrier has issued notice on April 28th for the plans for Cathay Pacific and Cathay Dragon, their subsidiary regional subsidiary. Um, Hong Kong Express, their budget carrier subsidiary, remains grounded until I believe no, actually, not I believe it's until June 18th. So for now, Cathay Pacific will be operating limited flights to select cities such as London, Los Angeles, Vancouver, Sydney, and New Delhi. These flights will be 2 flights per week. So these frequencies are 2 times a week to three. Um, and then select cities in Asia like Tokyo, Manila. Some of these very important routes in Singapore as well. Cathay Dragon, 3 flights per week to Beijing, Shanghai, Pudong, and Kuala Lumpur. This schedule, according to this report, according to this release from Cathay Pacific, will be until the until late June, until the fourth week. And at that time, because right, these schedules are at 3% capacity, so they're planning to go up to 5%, starting June 21, and they will be including more cities, including Amsterdam, uh, Melbourne, Mumbai, and Delhi, and Osaka and Seoul. So they're gonna bump up the weekly flights of some of these routes and introducing back some of these other routes that they would normally serve. Though this is still a very minuscule part of their overall network. And now we're gonna get to Singapore Airlines. And Singapore Airlines, they are currently they have released several updates to their schedule. Now, for the most part, they are doing mostly intra-Asia routes. So, like for example, in this PDF file updated on, they are running Kuala Lumpur, and to Manila. These are very important routes in Southeast Asia for them. I believe in North America they are gonna be running select cities such as London. No, I'm sorry, Los Angeles in North America and Sydney in Australia. That's it. There's also a focus in Europe with Frankfurt, Zurich, and London. I'm not sure exactly how long this schedule will go, but and also for Silk Air, by the way, they will be operating limited flights to Chongqing in China. Okay, with that said, that's Singapore Airlines, and that covers Silk Air as well. The other airline I wanted to bring up is actually not an Asian-based carrier, but it has been making some moves in Asia, and therefore I also talk about Delta and their significant history in Asia, especially in Japan. So the U.S.-based, the Atlanta-based carrier, is going to do limited flights. They have been doing cargo flights, and they've highlighted that. Though the important thing is they are going to be running less than daily flights, so 4 routes, departing from both Detroit, Michigan, their hub in Detroit, and Seattle in the Pacific Northwest in Washington State. So the two hubs will see flights going to both Seoul Incheon and Tokyo Haneda. And these are not going to be daily flights. Now, with Delta, and these are the other network, if you want to see it, and if you're interested in Delta, you can take a look at their flight plans. And they're also going to be implementing some policies, which you can actually go take a look at it, such as I believe they're not selling certain seats and some premium seating. You can go ahead and take a look at that later on. Now, so these are basically, I'm trying to get more information on United and American, and probably might do a separate stream on that, bring it up eventually. But this is for now, at least from a U.S. based carrier, from that point of view. Now, I mentioned Garuda Indonesia's plans, and they are the next airline. And so far, as we know, I mentioned earlier, Indonesia, there is travel restrictions with exemptions. So these are basically the exemptions here, like heads of state or embassy officials, as well as support staff for the ongoing fight against the pandemic, I guess. And they are, like, again, more policies here. Now, where the interesting part is where the flight routes, and while there are limited domestic flights now going on, like, but these are domestic flights are gonna be for you need to be getting approval for those to get on those flights. So Garuda's plans until May 31st, basically most domestic flights and all international that's listed here to China and also to the Middle East. Now, I'm not sure if this is all the routes, so if you have any more information on Garuda, feel free to chime in. Now, interesting enough that Domestic routes to Jaipura and Nambire, not sure how that's pronounced, and they are suspended. Timika are going to be suspended until further notice, while the Bali and Surabaya, both of them going to Singapore, those routes, Bali to Singapore and Surabaya to Singapore, will be suspended until May 20th. So late May will be the target date for Garuda to start at least bringing up some flights and getting a sense of normalcy for them. The next airline I will be discussing is Royal Brunei Airlines, and this airline again, I always kind of notice they never really get a lot of notice, and like many of their counterparts, have implemented restrictions on travel heading to the country. So we are still seeing in effect the limited flight schedules until June 30th. Um, Brunei, Bandar Seri Begawan hub to Kuala Lumpur, Singapore, Melbourne, Hong Kong, and Manila, and these are deemed essential. As for the Borneo intra Borneo flights operated by RB Link with their Malindo Air partnership, these I guess they now if you read this doesn't sound good. They are gonna be suspending these flights until November 30th. But according to this, the suspension will be reviewed regularly in line with demand for international air travel and government directives in place then. So this actually, I'm not sure if there's a chance that this could be eased up and the reopening for RB Link would be accelerated a little bit ahead, though I don't see it likely right now, especially with the situation. And I think the Brunei government is still kind of like most of their other Southeast Asian counterparts, not very confident that they have the situation under control. Now, I'm not sure if anyone has more information about the Brunei situation with the pandemic. Let me know, and if it's going to affect any more of the plans. Um, Go ahead, take a look at this even more. So we have and actually these are the specific frequencies of Royal Brunei flights. I just clicked on this link on their updates page, and here we go. So you have Brunei, Kuala Lumpur, for example, once a week, and then they're gonna bump it up twice a week. And again, you mostly once or twice a week flights to these select cities. Not very much flying going on. And Royal Brunei, same situation. Now, the last airline group I will be discussing in this video is the JETSTAR group, specifically the Singapore-based arm, the JETSTAR Asia, looking to resume flights. Now, these flights are not actually for regular paying customers. These are the recovery temporary flights. This was covered on April 20. This was about a few weeks ago that they have been running these flights between Manila. Now, this is not like a round robin kind of flight. I'm not sure if round robin's the right word, but uh, this is just Singapore to Manila, back to Singapore, and then they probably take the plane again after it gets back to Singapore, going to Bangkok and Kuala Lumpur. Now, the flights, Manila will be operated once a week. Kuala Lumpur will be twice a week, and Bangkok apparently will be a cargo flight twice a week. So there you go. They will be, and I think they can probably just use one aircraft on this for the weekly runs that they're going to be making. And again, like most of these airlines, they are going to be reducing seating capacity. In this case, the JETSTAR Asia flights will be operating at 112 seats, and I'm pretty sure that the aircraft are around maybe 150 to 180 seats. So just imagine that, like 60 to 70% capacity, practicing social distancing, and I think they're going to be trying to attempt that on those flights. Now, as for the effectiveness, I have my own say on that. That'll be for another time. So, anyways, that's just a roundup of who's flying and just the information that I have gathered on some of the Asia Pacific airlines that are currently operating and are setting their plans for the months of May and June. This is really not a great time for the aviation industry, as we all know, and I think this is no secret anymore. Um, we would love to get things back to normal, but for now, I think with the base on the schedules right now, it's going to be an interesting situation to see what happens in the Europe and the United States, how they kind of, and I'm pretty sure with the situation in the United States, the government there are looking for ways to bring business back in operation. So that could be an example of what we could see, and also the other examples we could see in aviation for the counterparts in Asia would probably be China and South Korea, which you see starting to see some domestic flights starting to pick up again. Now, this is as are we going to go to the levels before the pandemic and all the cancellations? Probably not. As I said in other videos and other live streams as well in the past, especially. Um, but for the meantime, especially for going back to that, especially how should I say this? Especially people are probably not gonna be waiting for a time to see if things are a sense of normalcy and maybe if it's convenient for them. And I'm pretty sure people do want to see their families. So the domestic flights again, these are probably the airlines that the strategy that we're seeing now that these and then in the case of Singapore, as there is no domestic flights, well, the only way you're gonna go around is international. I mean, unless you want to go take a car, or actually you could take a car to Malaysia, just cross the border, and but then again, of course, that's subject to certain restrictions, and you are subject to quarantine measures that the Malaysian or Singapore government, depending on what direction you're going, you'll have to abide by. So that's very much it. I hope you enjoyed this video. This is kind of impromptu, and I decided to do this because I thought it would be better off to just go ahead and go ad lib on this. So if there's any other information about other airlines that you may want to know about, let me know. And I think I might do this as a recurring video depending on the frequency of these travel and government restrictions on airlines and flight schedules implemented in response to the ongoing pandemic. So once again, this has been Flights in Asia. For more updates and feature content related to the aviation and travel scene in the Asia Pacific. If you like this video, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Once again, thank you for watching and have a great day.